So, I want to quickly talk about some current events or trending issues. One of which is that of podcasts. You saw the appearance of ZFace in a podcast hosted by Nedu Wazobia. And in that podcast, ZFace said some things which, it got some backlash, and he had to make a video apologizing for the things he said in the podcast, and that he may be cancelled, apologize to his wife, to his current partner, Natasha, apologize to his children and all that, because he said something in the podcast relating to how a man is biologically or sexually attracted to more than one woman. I brought a lot of backlash. The thing is that I wonder why ZFace went on a podcast, Nigerian podcast, because one thing as a celebrity, people who are celebrities, one thing that celebrities, popular figure, politicians should know is that the podcast is not really the ideal place to go, because Nigerian podcast is something else. The podcasts we used to know, if you watch podcasts from programs hosted in other countries, podcasts, you have podcasts based on sports, where a host interview sports personalities. You have podcasts based on politics and celebrities, where they are invited and they are asked questions and all that. You have podcasts that are educative for educative purpose, podcasts that are informative, some may be entertaining and all of that. But the purpose of podcasts in other countries is not just to go viral, gotcha moment, if it's a political season, election season, and a podcast host is hosting maybe US presidential candidate and all that, yes, they may look for gotcha moments where they may trip the politician into saying something that will now go viral and stuff like that. That happens. But overall, the purpose of podcasts is just to inform people, to entertain, not really on looking for viral moments, not looking for the person to say something very nasty or something negative, that will not be played over and over again. But that's what we see with Nigerian podcast. We saw what happened with Nedu when he was with the Honest Bunch podcast, and when he fell out with VDM, we saw that a number of people came out and say Nedu was coaching them into saying things that they would not have said if not for the coaching that they got from Nedu, So, meaning that before they went on the on the Honest Bunch podcast, Nedu would sit down with them and, try to tell them possible things that they could say, And the thing you should know with podcasts, the podcast is not a regular interview. Normal interviews, TV interviews last 30 minutes, 1 hour, tops 1.5 hours, and there will be commercial breaks and stuff like that. But the interviews on podcasts are usually very long. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours interview. They may edit some part out of the interview and all of that, but podcasts are usually very long. And if you are a popular figure, especially if you are going through personal issues, family issues, divorce, breakup and all of that, yes, you are a music legend like ZFace, but you have personal issues, divorce from the former wife, Annie, and, getting married to a new wife and stuff like that. If you have a lot of that personal stuff going on, you don't go on a long podcast interview. Because for a normal interview, these popular figures, they have a team. You have a management team, right? And so before you go for an interview, do you have what they hope to achieve with that interview? Usually, popular figures, they plan for the interviews, things they are going there to promote a movie or promote a book they've written and stuff like that. You have a goal. And within 30 minutes, an hour, you've achieved the goal that you're going there for. But podcast is not like that. Podcast is hours long talk. So even if you have something in mind that you want to talk about, because of the length of time of the podcast, they will drag you into unnecessary things that you shouldn't be talking about in public, And if, let's say, when the podcast starts, you are very well guarded, the things you should say and not to say. If you are there 1 hour, 2 hours, the length of that time, you get tired and you lose guard. You not be able to, keep to the scripts, or your messaging will go off track, So, and that is why it's common knowledge that, like, there was some time ago, the lady that got popular because she said she wakes up early to prepare food for the husband, because there was someone else as a female at the husband's workplace who was bringing food for the husband and stuff like that. And when she did that, and she went, viral, and people started contributing money to support her for what she does and stuff like that. One of the advice people were giving her then, don't go on podcast. And she said, she's already aware of that. Because if you especially if you are instant, viral sensation, you gain fame all of a sudden, and you're not especially used to that kind of fame and stuff like that, the place you want to avoid by all means is podcast. Because they're going to turn your life upside down. It's going to unearth a lot of things. At the end of the day, people focus on the scandals in your life rather than the good, positive thing that has made you gone viral. So, for ZFace is someone that is a music legend, but we know that he's not very eloquent, especially in Queen's English. Let me use that word. He's not very eloquent in that, and he's very self-conscious of that. So when he talks, he tends to be hesitant. He tries to gauge the things, the words he uses, and all of that. So for someone like ZFace, he has some struggle with trying to really express himself. So going on a long podcast is not ideal for ZFace. It's not ideal for him. It's because he's bound to trip himself into saying some things that, stuff like that. So ZFace should not have gone on a podcast in the first place, And I really feel bad for, him coming out, apologizing, it makes him look worse off. If it was just a podcast and he just, allowed the controversies, after a while, people will move on, but coming out, probably he could just have apologized to the new partner and to the children privately. But coming out and apologizing, he has this thing to read. Understand? Because no matter what apology you want to come up with, people will already hold their grounds on their opinions and stuff like that. So you more like trying to feed the dogs or something. I don't know if that's the right expression to use. But podcasts, Nigerian podcasts, forget it. Podcasts are not places you go if you are trying to promote something, right? But don't allow it for them to dig into your personal life. If you are promoting a course, promoting a product, a movie or something, always try to go back to it. You see some podcasts, like when the actor or figure is being asked some questions, he tries to direct them back to the movie or something that they're promoting. I said, I don't want to talk about my own self, Yeah, there was a time Nedu went for an interview, went to another podcast or something, or an interview, and he was asked personal questions which he refused to talk about because he said it's his own personal life. And so, but he feels very comfortable trying to, to interviewing people on certain things, and to now turn to viral moment and stuff like that. So I wish ZFace well. He's not an interview person. He doesn't really grant a lot of interviews. So the last place he would want to go is a podcast. I know people will move on. I hope he moves on. And he shouldn't go on a podcast. Because going on a podcast, those who are hosting the podcast have the agenda. He just wants to be ZFace and do his music and live his life and stuff like that. I wish him well.